You know that feeling when you hire a tradesperson and wonder whether you've picked a cowboy? Well, I've been there. But these days I've got a small group that I trust where I can hand them the keys, go back to my 9 to 5, and the job just gets done. In this video I'm going to show you the 10 easy steps that I use to find reliable tradespeople for the long term. So first up is scope. So before you message anyone, decide what's in the job, what's out, and the finish that you're looking for. A couple of photos, some rough measurements, any access notes. If it's a small job, just keep it light. But if it's a full bathroom or kitchen fit out, you need to know who's supplying what, whether you want the old stuff taken away, whether there's any tiling involved and what fixtures are in there. But once you've got that, the next step is shortlisting. So the aim of the shortlist is to build a list of tradespeople that you're going to reach out to. So ask for some recommendations from neighbours and mates, maybe even some other tradespeople, but do sanity check the people that have been recommended on Google or Check a Trade first. Build a long list of all of those names and then look into them and pick your top 3 to 5 as the shortlist. The others go on the bench and they're names that you can go back to if your first picks are busy. Next step is to call or text them. So contact. So you work your way through your shortlist, reach out to them, starting with your favourite, and say something like, "Hi, I'm in Newark, I've got a job," say the job in about a sentence. "Are you taking on work, and roughly when can you do the work?" If they're open to it, I then go ahead and text them photos and a brief summary so that they can think it over. And if they say no, which isn't uncommon, it's usually just timing or distance is the factor, then just move to the next name, it's not an issue. But once you have some trade people that are interested in the job, you do some site visits. And this is when they can actually see the job in person. So if you can, try and be there at the property with them. It's the most ideal. You can walk them through exactly what you want so you're both picturing the same job. So have some measurements ready, show them a simple sketch maybe, and clear the area. A tidy space helps people price properly. If it's completely messy, it's really hard to see what you're working with. Next step is a written quote. So this is what you and your potential tradesperson are both agreeing to. For anything beyond tiny jobs, ask for it in writing. You want a breakdown of labour versus the materials, whether VAT is included, what's included or excluded as part of the job. And you want to cover things like waste removal, start window, rough duration. And I also like to do a rough ballpark figure using AI, something like ChatGPT, to see if a number looks odd, which isn't gospel at all, it's just a sense check so I can ask better questions. So it should really help narrow down what's a reasonable quote. Things to watch out for on this step actually though. If they're vague on VAT or pushing a big deposit very early, which is more than materials, or they're refusing to put a number in writing, then it might be a bit of a red flag. One of those might be fine by itself, but 2 or 3 of those might be a warning. But anyway, 6 is comparison. So you've got your quotes, and you should try and compare between them. Put the quotes side by side and make them like for like. If one includes plastering but the other doesn't, then adjust to get a revised price. Also things like who's removing the rubbish, who's making good at the end, any certifications needed. I'm not chasing the cheapest job here, I'm looking for the best fit. So clear scope, realistic price, decent communications, and everything that I want included. But now you've got a better idea of which quotes are probably more suitable for what you want, the next step is payments. Keep it proportional. For the small jobs, just pay on completion. For the medium jobs, a modest deposit is probably expected, especially if they're buying materials, and then you just pay the rest of the labour balance at the end. But for the bigger refurbs, it's better to set staged payments on clear milestones. So for example, if there was a kitchen and a bathroom and a living room renovation, you might pay in thirds depending on which one they completed. Now, one thing you might find with some tradespeople is that they'll offer you a bit of a discount if you pay them in cash. Now, I'm not saying do or don't, just do whatever you think is right, but personally I prefer an invoice. It keeps things above board and then it gives a paper trail if something goes wrong. If it helps, you can buy the big materials directly and have an invoice for that yourself, and they just bill the material and sundries and you pay them cash for that. Just make sure you agree that up front. Right, now step 8 is actually kicking off. So this is where the job gets done. Just before day 1, I'll send a quick confirmation text with a 3-bullet scope. So I want to know price with VAT, the date and the access. But after then, and during the job, I've got 2 priorities while the job's going on. I want quick decisions from myself and to be genuinely helpful on the simple stuff. So I want to be very reachable. I want them to be able to just call me for a quick 30 seconds to tell them which way a door should swing, or what height I want the sockets at, or what pattern I want the tiles. By being available for that, it means that no one is misaligned because they can just call me to find out the answer. And that way I won't have to redo a job, or I won't have any frustration later for something being done the way that I didn't envision it being done. And then something I personally do while the job's going on is that I like to muck in myself as much as possible if I've got the time. So I help out with the menial stuff, nothing specialist. I'll lift a few floorboards for them maybe, bag up some rubble, sweep up at the end of the day, or just do a run to the tip for them. I'm trying to be as helpful as possible whilst I'm still respecting their craft. I don't touch anything that needs skill or certification, the gas, the electrics, the testing, the waterproofing. But I am curious though, so if we've got a good rapport and we're chatting really nicely, then I will like to ask questions while they work. And I find most people are happy to explain if you're respectful and you're not slowing them down. And then finally, one thing to watch out for while the job's going on is any scope changes. If something changes, I get a quick text with the time and the cost impact, and I just thumbs up it. So I want to make sure that every time scope does change, I'm agreeing to it. But one final thing that I wanted to mention during the job is that basic morale tends to really matter. So I like to learn their tea or coffee order. I bring breakfast rolls in now and again, and then I give notice if I'm popping in on them because I've left them the keys. It's respectful and it builds trust, because ultimately I want them to enjoy the job and possibly do more jobs for me in the future. So step 9 is the wrap up. So this is when we're finishing things off. I'll potentially do a quick snag list with them if there's anything left outstanding. I'll collect certificates as well, and I'll pay them promptly. And if it's been really good work, I'll definitely leave them a great review and say thank you very much. And with that, plus potentially mucking in too, and then providing the teas and coffees and stuff like that, is how you turn a single job into a healthy long-term relationship. Step 10 is a black book. Now in your black book, which is actually just notes on my phone, I add them to my list. What they did, where they did it, how it went, and whether I'd hire them again. And if it went really well, then good people tend to know other good people. So a solid builder might point you to a useful plasterer who then knows a really good tiler who recommends an amazing sparky. And that way you can build up a black book of really useful contacts that will be willing to do jobs for you again because they enjoyed it too. So a quick recap: you scope it, you shortlist it, you call and text them to confirm, you do a site visit, you get quotes, you compare those quotes, you sort out how you're going to pay for it, you then kick off the job, and then through the job as well, you're helping out where you can, you're building morale, all of that jazz. And then you wrap up the job, making sure that everything's done that you wanted to be done. You leave them good reviews, and then you add them to your black book. The actual overall aim here is not to just find the cheapest price. It's actually finding the least stress with a tidy finish at a fair price. So if you're renovating your own home and thinking about investing into property, I'll put a video floating over here on how I'd start property investing in the UK with just £20,000. If you enjoyed this video, please like it because it really helps my channel. I've got free resources in the description below. And I also run one-to-one sessions if you want help on your specific plan. Catch you in the next one.